I'm Mia, the Twinkle Phonics training coordinator, and today the product owners Joe and Simon are here to answer some common questions about the schemes. Our first question, how can I ensure fidelity to the scheme?
So as we understand it, fidelity means using one scheme for all of your phonics, wherever that's possible. So using our progression of grapheme, phoneme correspondences and tricky words is a big part of that.
And for reading books, you can show fidelity by using the Rhino readers as your first port of call, because those are the books that have been written to align with the Twinkle Phonics scheme, and they've been designed to reinforce the recent teaching you've done. You can use them as guided readers or as home readers, and some schools do both. And of course, you're able to supplement the Rhino readers with books from other schemes. We do have a matching books document which enables you to do that. But fidelity to the scheme is generally taken to mean start with the resources that the scheme has created, and then you look outside from there if you need to.
Do the Rhino Readers books link to Twinkle Phonics?
When we were designing the Rhino Readers book structure, we have made an assumption that children's reading skills do naturally lag a little bit behind that phonics teaching. And that's because they need time to embed all of the new GPCs and tricky words that they've learned to make more automatic. If they're going to be fluent enough to access things like comprehension and inference and sequencing and all of the reading domain skills that we're going to need them to work with, they're going to need to have a little bit of time for that to be embedded. And therefore, the Rhino Readers books do run a little bit behind the weeks of teaching in Twinkle Phonics. What happens is you'll get to a particular point of your teaching and you'll have covered enough grapheme, phoneme correspondences and tricky words for a sub-level of books to be unlocked. Now, I'm just going to share the alignment poster that we've made. You can see that during the first 3 weeks of teaching level 2, you're going to cover the graphemes A, I, N, M, D, G, O. 2 ways of spelling. And by the time you've got to the end of week 3, the children will be able to access all of the books within level 2A of Rhino Readers. And those would be the books you read while you're teaching the next chunk of content. So in this case, that would be up until the end of week 5, when they'll be able to access the 2B books. And of course, we do have decodable texts within the Twinkle Phonics scheme, which do directly relate to the weeks of teaching, which would be more suitable if you wanted to link exactly what you've learned that week to the text you're asking your children to practice.
Yeah, that's right. So we have our we have individual mini books for every single week of the phonics scheme. Now you can find these in the lesson 5 lesson pack for each week. And once the children have completed the learning for each individual week, they can then apply what they've learned by accessing one of our mini books. Now we have a reading mini book and a writing mini book, so you can use those to suit the needs of those individual children that you have. And that's designed specifically to back up and consolidate the learning from that specific week of the scheme. So it really focuses on those skills and the grapheme, phoneme correspondences and tricky words that they've learned in that exact week of teaching.
How can my learning environment and displays support phonics and reading?
Your environment can play a huge role in supporting your phonics learning. So we've created a vast array of resources for this very purpose, from sound mats and flashcards to posters, banners and bunting, so that your children are always able to find scaffolding and support to support for their learning, whether it's during the phonics lessons or in their wider literacy sessions, while they're reading, while they're writing. They may need just that little bit of support, and we've provided lots of resources so that they can find the support in the classroom to help enable them to be more independent in that learning.
And thinking about your reading corner as well, I mean, obviously you want to make things look snug and welcoming, so thoughtful displays definitely help, but I think what you want is for the books to be the main attraction in your reading corner, and the book corner itself is focused on showcasing them. And the reading framework does suggest you have a few key texts on display which you switch from time to time, so there's a sense of it being constantly refreshed and the teacher is giving it value. And some schools I know do like to make the relevant Rhino Reader books accessible to children in the reading corner. It encourages children to reread books they already know to gain confidence and fluency. However, I know many schools do also value the reading corner as being a place to develop reading for pleasure too, and they encourage children to choose their sharing books or well-known literature there, which you could send home, obviously with clear guidelines that these are intended to be supported reads, read by the adults to support the children.
How can I support home learning?
So within the phonics scheme, we've created a number of resources to help support the learning once children leave the classroom. So we have a parent sheet for every grapheme phoneme correspondence that we teach in Twinkle Phonics. So in the early levels, in level 2, 3, where children are learning one sound a day. Typically, there's a sheet for every sound so that the children can take that home and involve parents or carers in their learning at home. As they move on through the scheme to the level 5 and level 6, there tends to be one per week that covers all of the learning from that week. They have presentations and letters that you can print out or show parents to show how they can support with learning. And a number of our resources could be used as homework or as home learning, such as the mini books, or some of our follow-up activities, or some schools like to use our workbooks as home learning as well. So there are a range of ways, a range of resources that we've created that you can send home to support with learning.
So there's a really easy way to share the Rhino Readers books with parents and carers at home, and that's by using the planner tool. So I'll show you quickly how that works. When you're logged in on the Twinkl website, you'll see there's a little blue bar on the right-hand side called Planner. And what you can do is you can drag across a resource, and that will then make the resource that you've dragged over into a lesson, which you can give a name to. And then when you come to share, you want to share the lesson with parents and carers. If you go to Manage Lesson Sharing from the same tab, you can see here that there's a lesson here called Class Photo, which is not yet shared. If I go to the Share button and then click that, and I choose to share that lesson and save it, you'll see that it's now got a code in the corner, and that code will allow children and parents and carers to access that book from any device at home, regardless of whether or not they have a Twinkl subscription. And the way that they would need to do that is by visiting Twinkl Go. So on Twinkl Go, you can see that there's actually a space here where you can add in that code. So parents and carers will just need to go to twinkl.co.uk/go, and they can pop in that code and they can read the books. And that works for any Twinkl resource, not just Rhino Readers books. So it's a great way that you can share what you've done in school with parents and carers at home without them needing a Twinkl subscription of their own. The other thing you might want to think about is using the additional resources that we've created to go with the Rhino Readers books as home learning support. And if you haven't used them in your reading carousel, we do add resources to books every month. They're not all up yet, it's a work in progress, but we are adding more, as I say, every month. And you can see which books do have resources added. When you're on the Rhino Readers, you're browsing the Rhino Readers website. Here we can see I've got the level 2 books I'm sharing here. If you click on one of the sub-levels, you'll see that if a book appears in the category tree here, that book will have resources written to go with it. So you can see here, Dig and Tap has got a range of resources and a teacher guide to go with it.
How do I assess my learners?
Assessing your learners is really, really important for your phonics lessons. You need to be able to help you with differentiating your lessons and to plan for things like interventions. It's really important that you know how your children are getting on with embedding all of those phonics skills, and if there's any gaps that you need to identify early on. So we suggest that you're doing lots of formative assessment in your everyday lessons, just to keep an eye and to keep touching point with where your children are with the learning for each day. We also suggest that you do summative, more formal assessments, roughly every 6 weeks or every half term. So we've created assessment packs to help with supporting that. There's an assessment pack for each level of the scheme, and you can find those all on site. And included in those is all of the things you would need to carry out assessments, as well as teacher recording sheets and an assessment grid where you can to help you track those learners as they progress through the year. There's also guidance at the bottom of the document to help guide you with using the document to make sure that you're getting effective and accurate assessment at each level, and to help track those children as they progress through the levels.
It's important you know that your children can recognise and read and have been taught those key GPCs and tricky words before they read the books. So we do have a little assessment tool for the Rhino Readers as well, and that's called the Ready to Move Up document, which we're just working on putting the final touches to now. So here you can see the level 2 version. If you're ready for level 2A, the child should ideally be able to recognise all of the GPCs you can see there. Level 2B, you can see there's a few more here, and hopefully the child will be able to recognise those. So this quick assessment lets you know how confident children are at giving you the phoneme when they see the grapheme, and recognising the tricky words they need on site.
Thanks, Joe and Simon. We hope that this video was helpful for you all. You can comment or ask questions below. And if you'd like to find out about training, please email phonics.training@twinkle.co.uk.